So we saw string, and let's go and check these other helper classes, or also called wrapper classes. So for every primitive type, we have one of these wrapper classes to manage or help us with that thing. So let's say as an example, you would have a float, let's say money, and let's say 3.4f. Well, normally, if you know the value and it's perfectly fine, well, then you should stick to the primitive type. You shouldn't utilize the wrapper class. But if you wanted to, you could put it inside this wrapper class, let's say monies, and we're going to put that value in there, such as float, value of, and we're going to grab that value 3.4f, or we could even do money, right? We could put in that value in this wrapper. Notice that this is lowercase f, this is uppercase f. These are wrapper classes, also known as helper classes. I like to name it that way. Now, there's a couple things to note. Just like our string, all of these, what did I do with my annotation? Sorry. With just like all of these strings, it's basically immutable. So whenever you try to change it, it has to create a brand new reference, a brand new object to be able to do any of those. So this is a bit heavy on the system. So if you know that your values right away, well, the float lowercase is fine. However, this method, this wrapper class comes with a lot of neat functionalities, methods. So if you do the dot, you could see here, we have a lot of static methods that could help us do something, such as check if it's infinite, if it's finite, if it's not a number, right? So there's a lot of use for this helper class. This is really useful. And if you want to wrap it like this, this is actually called boxing it. So we're boxing it into an object, that value that we have. There is some need for this, but really the biggest need is if you don't want to set a value to your float, right? You don't want to set it to 0 because that is a value. You don't want to set it to -1, that is a value. So what you could do is have one of these wrapper class, and you could set it to, let's say, null, right? Every object, basically, this hasn't been set. It doesn't have any value because there is no value, right? Anyway, so when you put in this is called boxing. So you're putting the primitive type into a object, a wrapper class, right? And if you unbox it, is basically putting that value back into something. So let's say money equals monies, and you could just do it like this, which is gonna be auto unboxing, or you could say monies. Sorry, I'm just misspelling here. Give me the float value, which is again a direct unboxing. So either one would work, okay? And again, the biggest use for this is to, in my opinion, the biggest use is the helper class, such as if I wanted to put in a value inside money, but I'm getting that value from the user and I want to double check that it's correct. So let's say I would say float, parse the float, and let's say the user put in some random value. Is this valid string or not? A valid float or not? We're going to see that. So when I run this, it came out correct. Let's say money, just to see what the value looks like. But the moment that the user enters something incorrect, we're going to get that exception, that runtime exception. And from there, we could move forward. What should I do from there? Right? You put it in a loop or something. So in this case, this parse float is telling us if the user entered correctly or incorrectly, and we could deal with that as an example, right? I think this is pretty much all we need to know. This boxing and unboxing is important to understand the terminology, especially if you go, let's say, in Swift or something like that. You'll see something with boxing and unboxing a lot more than you would see in Java. But that's it. Now, just remember one last thing is that all primitive types have a helper class with them. So utilize that for your needs, especially when converting from string to whatever that type is. It helps out a lot. All right, guys, see you in the next video.